Hello and welcome to the Learning Objective 1 Exercise 2 when we are talking about measures of center tendency, location and dispersion. As always, you can download this file from our website. It includes three tabs: exercise solution with the solution of the calculation we are going to do step by step in the exercise tab, and the question when you'll be required to replicate the same calculations on a little bit different data set and upload it to our website and receive solution to it as well. So let's get to it. So we'll be calculating mean, which is yet another word for simple average, median, which is at the middle number in the whole distribution, mode, which is the most reoccurring number, skew is a number which is basically index or a measure of how skewed the data is. You know, if it leads like if it leads left or right, and standard deviation, which is yet another measure of like how the data is dispersed. So first we have to calculate n, which is basically just how many data points we have. You can do so by either highlighting the whole, all of the data points, which you can do by Control Shift down arrow. It highlights them all, and indeed the count is 1257. But I'll show you a formula to do it a little bit more precisely, because you can always make an error by writing it down. So you can just use the formula count, double click on the chosen function, and again highlight the whole data set, Control Shift down arrow and enter. And indeed, it's 1257. I have to change the formatting of the cell because it's in percentages and simple count is not in percentages. So I go to number. I want 0 decimal points, and 1257 is the result. Mean, which as I said is simple average. So I can either use like simple formula for calculating a simple average, which is sum of all of the data points. Again, highlight the first cell, Control Shift down arrow, enter, which basically just calculates the sum, which is not all of what I want. I want to divide it by the number of data points, which will give me a simple average, which is quite small, but it's a positive number, which means that on average, the stock index SP500 grew daily 0.004%. It's a small number, but it's positive, and it's a daily change, so of course it accumulates over time. We can also use a different function, which is average. Again, I can choose it from the list, highlight the whole data set by pressing Control Shift arrow down, enter, and indeed it gives me exactly the same number. With median, it's a little bit more complicated because median is the middle number of the distribution. So what I want to do, is to copy this whole column in a separate sheet, which I've already actually done over here. Number them, sort them by their values, and then to find the middle number. So I did it here previously, and as I scroll down, it should be somewhere over here, and this is the median number. So it's 0.05. I can just write it down over here. 0.05, or as always I can use a Excel function, which I will do, and it's a median, and again just highlight the whole column, and in it is the same value as over here. Then we can calculate mode, which we will do only by Excel function, but we are dealing with continuous variable over here, percentage change of the daily stock, which can have as many decimal points as you can imagine. So very likely I will actually not get any reasonable response, because there's very likely no exact number repeating. So mode, here we go. Again, highlight the whole data set. And indeed, there is no mode in the whole data set, which is okay, because we know that we have a continuous data set, a continuous variable. So it's probably what you could expect. Skew. Skew is a little bit problematic because the formula for it is a bit difficult. But so I'll show you only the Excel function, which will let you to calculate very quickly. So the formula, as you would expect, is skew. And highlight the whole data set again, Control Shift down arrow, enter, and there is our skew. And standard deviation, which again, like I'm going to do the formula first because it's so easy. So what you want to do is again write standard deviations, and the formula for it is stdef, and depending on if you're dealing with population or sample, you choose one of these two. We have a pretty much whole data set of daily changes, so for our purposes, we'll consider the population. So P, highlight the whole thing. There's our standard deviation. We can also do it the long way, so we will. And that basically requires us to calculate the errors from expected values. So uh, first you highlight the daily change, then you subtract the mean of the whole population. So mean we calculate over here, and this is our daily change. Again, we probably want to lock this one by pressing F4, so we can nicely and easily copy it down. Click to the right, Control Shift up arrow, one cell down while holding Shift still, Control V, and that's all our errors. Then we'll square them easily enough. The little roof sign, squaring. Again, going down, Control Shift down arrow, move to the right, Control Shift up arrow, Control V, and we nicely populated the whole thing. Now we actually want the totals of the two. So we want to sum brackets, Control Shift up arrow. While holding Shift, you move down one cell and press Enter. And as you would expect, if you subtract mean, the average from each of the data points, it should be 0. That's a control that we do it properly. And I'm just going to copy, I'm going to be lazy and copy it like one cell right, which will basically just move the average over here. And this is our total of our squared errors. And to get to our standard deviation, we want to brackets. We want to include brackets, and it's the total of all squared errors. Sorry, I'm looking for it. I could have done it by moving brackets. Divided by our average, and I want to derive a square root of it, which I'll do by squaring it at 0.5. And the result is different, and I don't know why, so I'll have to check it. because I probably made a formula ever somewhere. 31. Of course, I want to divide it not by the average, by the count. That's what's wrong. And indeed, the result is the same. That's why it is really helpful if you check your calculations a few times, because every living creature of course makes a mistake sometimes. So first of all, you have to be careful about your formula, but also it helps if you kind of recheck your calculations like at least two different ways, so you make sure that you don't make a mistake. And well, we calculated all of these, but as you have seen, uh, it really took us a really long time. So I'm going to show you one really beautiful way how to actually circumvent the whole thing and do it in a matter of seconds, which you will find extremely useful. So you go to data, and there should be this icon called data analysis. And if it's not, and like if you just install Excel and you never installed the data analysis tool in there, you probably don't have it there. So you have to go to File, Options, go to Add-ins. There is at the very bottom, Manage Excel Add-ins. Go and you have to click Analysis Toolpack. If you press OK, it will appear there. So now you go to Data, Data Analysis, and there's like a lot of functions you can choose from, but for right now we want descriptive statistics. So I pressed on it, and it asked me for input range, which is again our original input range as we use every time. So daily change relative, Control Shift down arrow, and that's quite nice. I want to have it in this data sheet, nowhere else. So I press over here, and I want summary statistics. So I press OK, and indeed it calculated everything for me: the mean, the median. You can check, median is over here. It's a little bit bigger, but it's just because I don't have the uh, I display only a few of the decimal points. Standard deviation, as I check, I calculated over here. It's over here as well. So that's really cool. It problem is here it actually calculates the standard deviation for samples, so you can see that like there is like on like a little bit different number on like fourth decimal point, but in any calculation that actually wouldn't matter. Maximum, minimum is here, sum is here, count is here, as we calculated here as well. So you can do the same thing much faster and much more effectively in a number of seconds. Of course, it took me a while before I installed the add-in, but if you have it installed already, you can just press a few buttons and you have everything in here already done. So that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for your attention, and see you in the next exercise.